Hey guys, it's Matt here, and today I'll be using my iPhone 6 for a week. No, I'm not. So, for surpassing 1,000 subscribers, I already made a video kind of discussing my thoughts and what the channel's gonna be doing, but I wanted to do something special as well. So, not only will I be using this iPhone 6 for a week, I will also be using this iPad mini 2 for a week, and my old Apple Watch for a week. And it's not gonna be for a week either. It's going to be for 1 full month. And for those of you wondering, no, I'm not running out of ideas. I'm simply just doing this just to see if these devices are still usable today, even though they're a couple years out of support. Like the iPhone 6 being on iOS 12 and the Apple Watch being on watchOS 4. I'm probably going to receive at least one comment saying that I'm running out of ideas. You're running out of ideas! So I'm going to be changing over literally everything I use for a solid month to stuff that is not supported anymore. Yeah, this is gonna be not so fun. AT&T decided to cut a lot of their older iPhone models with their cellular support, so that means that only an iPhone 6 or later will work with their cellular systems. I've actually tried using an older phone, and I broke everything. So it literally deactivated my SIM card. I had put it back in my main phone, still didn't work. I had to call them up and figure out why it broke. But yeah, so that did not work. So I would have used like a 5S or a 5, but I couldn't do that. So the 6 is as old as I can go, but since the 6 isn't that old, I decided let's shake things up a bit. Make it so my entire workflow, well, a couple exceptions to that, but most of my entire workflow has to be done on an old system. So let's go over the devices that I can use. So the first thing I'll mention here is the iPhone I'll be using. As you saw from the intro, I will be using the iPhone 6. The iPhone 6 has the A8 processor with 1GB of RAM, and this phone has 64 gigs of storage, which is plenty for me. The maximum version of iOS that this iPhone can run is iOS 12.5.3. So the next device I'll be bringing up here is the Apple Watch I'll be using. The Apple Watch I'll be using is a Series 0 Apple Watch with 8GB of storage and the Apple S1 chip. It also has 512 megs of RAM, and the highest watchOS version that this watch can run is watchOS 4.3.2. This used to be my very first Apple Watch, so this will be interesting. And finally, the last device I'll be bringing up here is my iPad mini 2. This device has the A7 processor with 1 gig of RAM, and this device has 32 gigs of storage. The highest iOS that this device can run is iOS 12.5.3, same as the iPhone 6. And yes, while I didn't talk about this earlier, if I do need to use an iPod Touch for some reason, I'll have to use my iPod Touch 6th Gen. So there's that. So without further ado, let's get to setting up my iPhone 6. Now, when it comes to setting up this iPad mini here, this one's already done. I've already set, don't go to sleep. I've already set this one with like the wallpaper that I use and basically everything that I use on here. It's already set up the way I want it to be. I use this iPad more often than my iPhone 6, so that's why this device has already been set up for the way that I want to use it for, because I still use this thing every so often. But now I just won't be able to use my iPad 8th gen or even my Air 2 because they're both supported. So you can see I've got my current wallpaper applied on this phone. You know, whatever, it looks fine. So I gotta get a decent amount of apps on here and then we'll be ready to start this. And I'm just gonna skip through all that. Chances are by the time you see the next clip, this one will be all ready and set up for me to use, with the exception of me probably having to put in the SIM card and put the phone case on. So we'll be going back to the way things were before I bought the MagSafe charger, because the iPhone 6 does not support it. In fact, you need an iPhone 8 or later in order to use wireless charging of any kind. So it's time for me to go back to Lightning. Okay, well, something kind of unexpected happened. How the heck is this thing still at 100% battery health? Oh my gosh. I don't know. We're gonna try this and see if I can even pair it, if it lets me. It should. I don't see why it wouldn't. In fact, this should. Yep, there we go. I was gonna say that should automatically go into pairing mode, and we're just gonna try this here. I've not tried pairing an Apple Watch to an iPhone 6, so we're gonna see what happens. It does pair. That's really cool. Yeah, that's really neat, actually, that pairs. Connecting your Apple Watch, yeah, I'm not surprised. Chances are, if this works correctly, I'll just leave these together on the same thing, and I think that would be perfectly fine. The thing that I'm kind of annoyed about, though, is that there aren't trends and all that. There aren't the new features from the fitness app on here. So I'm not going to get those, but the thing I'm curious about is, will the activity data sync from this phone to the phone that I'm obviously recording with? I agreed to the terms, you dumb thing. Signing into your account, this may take a few minutes. It's gonna be a bit. So as you can see, currently on my main Mac, the challenge really hasn't started yet. I'm probably gonna start it either later tonight or tomorrow. Either way, first day will be tomorrow. I'll just start it early for fun, just to get it ready. But I don't want to accidentally use my main phone, and since I want to have a phone as a camera, I'll be using my iPhone 7 Plus here. I haven't used this phone in a while. It can record in 1080p 60, which technically the iPhone 6, which is over there somewhere, technically that phone can also record in 1080p 60, but I would say it does it fine. The quality is not as good. That's why I'm gonna use my 7, because this has the same camera as the phone that the iPhone 7 has the same camera as the SE does, so I'm not really worried about that. But yeah, currently just restoring this phone. It's got a ton of data on it. I've pulled everything that I care about off of it. And this will probably be my camera from now on, because it's literally the same camera. You're not gonna notice the difference. But yeah, so just a few thoughts before I actually fully start the challenge here. Am I excited? No. But I'm doing this just to see, can you get into Apple in the cheap? So using old devices, stuff that isn't really supported anymore, and also just to entertain you guys, just because, you know, that's what I like doing. This is going to be a very interesting challenge, to say the least. Now, you can see I'm on my 7 Plus because I've got my SE right here. So this is the final little moments of using this guy for at least a little while. What I'm going to need to do is pull out the SIM card. There we go. Put the tray back in. AT&T says that this works with the 6. It says on their website that in order to use AT&T's cellular service, you need to have, you need to have an iPhone 6 or later. Why is that not going? And it's bending the paperclip. Moment of truth. Oh, there we go. Let's see if that works. You can see it has successfully changed over to this phone, which I'm happy about. I was worried that it was going to brick itself like it's done in the past. But yeah, cool. It is working now. And one thing I'm noticing immediately, there are no widgets on here, and you can't hold anywhere. There are no widgets. The iOS 12 did not have them. That was a 14 thing. Along with this device also, it doesn't feel that old, honestly, and it honestly is very smooth going. I think that this challenge is going to go all right. I mean, honestly, I was using this phone a bit before I actually completely switched over to it. It is not fun, I tell you immediately, because Discord, for one thing, is super slow. A lot of things on here are not going to be fast, and I'm going to probably get mad at this thing really quickly. We'll have to see how that goes. So, tomorrow will be day 1. I've got everything set up now tonight, but tomorrow will be day 1. This is going to be a very interesting challenge, to say the least. Hey guys, it is day 1 of using the iPhone 6 and other related devices for a solid month. There are a few things that have already annoyed me about this phone, and that is one of them being there's no swipe to type on the keyboard. Not having swipe to type has been kind of weird, you know, that's one aspect of it. Another one being, since the device runs iOS 12, there's no dark mode or anything, which is kind of annoying because at night I'll tend to switch it more to dark mode, and that's not an option on this phone, so, you know, that's another thing that this phone just doesn't have. Another thing is with the Apple Watch side of things. The Apple Watch is very, very underpowered compared to what my main Apple Watch would be, because the Series 0 Apple Watch runs watchOS 4, which is, I mean, they did introduce a lot of new features on watchOS 4, like the new nightstand mode or whatever it's called. I can't remember what it is, but they introduced that in watchOS 4.3. They introduced a lot of features, actually, that made their way onto newer watchOS versions that this watch actually has, because it's running 4.3. So you can see one thing, too, is that it's got first-gen Touch ID, so it takes a lot longer to be able to unlock with my fingerprint. I mean, at least it has Touch ID, I'll give it that. A lot of my older phones just don't have it at all. And one big thing too, there are no widgets. I actually use widgets a lot now with iOS 14, and obviously 12 did not have them, so. And with the Apple Watch, you can see here, with running such an old version of watchOS, first of all, let me check and see what version it is running. Yeah, 4.3.2, that is the highest version that this Apple Watch can run. You can't go any higher than 4.3, so yeah, you know, that's kind of interesting. I'll have to check and see if there's any dot updates. I don't think there are for this watch, and you can also see, look at how little apps there are on here. And not only that, but I've downloaded a ton of apps. Barely any of them support watchOS 4 anymore, so only this one does, which is Power Schools. That's the only app that I have that still supports it, even though I know for a fact I have apps that work on watchOS. But yeah, this is the only one that works. And you can see how little apps, like built-in apps, there are too. There was no app store, calculator, voice memos. Yeah, they didn't have a lot of stuff back in watchOS 4. Finally, one more thing I've had to forego with this phone is wireless charging. Obviously, it does not support it being an iPhone 6. You need to have an iPhone 8 or later to use it. And yeah, I mean, it's not been that inconvenient to just have to use Lightning. I do like wireless charging though, because it's easier when I'm going to bed to just be able to sit my phone on a mat and have it charge. I think that's so much easier than having to dig for cords and stuff, because it falls down my bed all the time. So at least it's a fast charger, I'll give it that, but what can you expect from an old phone? I'm not gonna blame it for it. Alright, it's a bit later in the day, so I'm gonna give my feedback on how things have been going. It's currently 6:40. So, first of all, the Apple Watch. The battery. Normally my battery on my Series 3 is around, I don't know, like 70-some% by now. This one is at 18%. The battery's already pretty much dead, so I'm gonna have to get this guy back on the charger. I don't think that's mainly, I think part of it is due to how old it is, and the battery obviously degrades, but a big part of it is also, the Series Zero's never really had good battery to begin with. They're alright. The Series 1 and 2, I think, kind of improved it a decent bit, but the Series Zero did not have a good battery. You can very much see that with the workouts that you do on this, because this Apple Watch was at maybe like 60% before I did like a half-hour outdoor walk, and after that it was at 30%. So workouts really destroyed this thing, and I think the reason for that is due to the heart rate sensor, because it was a pretty new thing and it probably uses a lot of battery. At least that's my theory anyways. So how's the iPhone 6 been faring? Well, it's been doing better. It's at 35%, which is about where my iPhone SE would be at. So that's not really much different, but how has it been speed-wise? Honestly, it's not that bad. I thought it would have been much worse than it is, but it's just an iPhone. I mean, the big thing that's giving this thing slowdown is the 1 GB of RAM. This thing with only 1 gig of RAM, it can't hold that many apps in memory. It really can't do a lot with multitasking. It's basically the multitasking that's on here is basically just an app switcher, because it really can't hold more than like 1 or 2 apps at a time. It is able to hold, it's able to hold a couple of them, but like I have YouTube and YouTube Studio open here, and yeah, Safari I opened that one just fine, but Discord's not gonna stay open. Okay, never mind. From other experiences, I've actually had it reset apps within like 2 or 3. I was able to get through 4 just then, so with 1 gig of RAM, I guess. But it's not that great, and that's actually, I think, a big reason for the slowdown is the RAM. Because the iPad Mini 4 with the exact same A8 processor, it runs much better, and that's because it's got double the RAM. Now, why did I pick the Series Zero Apple Watch to go with this? Because the iPhone 6 technically supports up to the Series 4 Apple Watch, although it doesn't run that with the latest software. So, 1, it's because it's what I've got, and 2, because you can't, that's the only Apple Watch that actually works on the iPhone 6 that you can fully take advantage of. The Apple Watch Series 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4, those came out when the 6 was supported. These cannot pair to the iPhone 6 on their latest software. The Series 1 and 2 run watchOS 6, and the maximum supported watchOS that this iPhone supports is watchOS 5. If you have anything newer than that, it's going to complain to you saying you need to update the software on your iPhone, which you can't because your phone doesn't support that. So the only Apple Watch that you can fully take advantage of is the Series Zero, which I've currently got on the charger now because it's pretty low on battery, but yeah, it's the only one you can fully take advantage of, and it's the reason why I chose that one. Alright guys, it's day 3, and I'm not 100% sure what I'm planning on doing for this video, like how I'm going to edit it together and stuff. So first of all, what about with the iPhone? Well, so far that's been going pretty good. I mean, iOS 12 is not that old, so it's been a lot easier than it would have been normally to actually get stuff working, because here's the thing, with iOS 7 or 9 or like maybe even 4, which I've made videos with all of those devices running those iOS versions, it was very difficult to get applications loaded on it, and with iOS 4 I didn't get any loaded on it for the entire week. With iOS 12 it's a bit of a different story. I've only been able to get one application to not install at all, and that was the Apple Store, because Apple requires iOS 13 and they don't let you use an older version, which I assume is probably a server side thing. However, One big downside with this challenge is the Apple Watch I'm using. Now, the Series 0 Apple Watch in and of itself is not a bad watch, but the problem is, with it running watchOS 4 instead of probably 5, which is what the iPhone 6 supports, is up to 5, that makes it very difficult to actually get any kind of applications on it, because I have several apps on this phone that are Apple Watch compatible, but only one of them will install to this watch. And that's because the app is super old and needs to be updated, so they haven't updated the Apple Watch version. So, you know, there's that. So with watchOS 4, there aren't that many built-in apps compared to the newer watches. With watchOS 6, they added a ton of different apps to the Apple Watch. They added the App Store, they added the calculator, they added voice memos, just to name a few of them. And this Apple Watch also does not support the radio app, which I'm pretty sure was on watchOS 4, but this Apple Watch just doesn't support it. There was also the walkie-talkie app that was released with watchOS 5 that this Apple Watch doesn't get because it doesn't get watchOS 5, meaning it is the only Apple Watch that does not support walkie-talkie. And finally, there's the cycle tracking app, which we don't talk about. Otherwise, this Apple Watch has been very decent for what I need it to do. I mean, it has the activity app, it has the workouts app. I mean, those were basically day one features. Obviously, it can show the time, being an Apple Watch, so it can do a lot of the basic things, obviously. You kind of expect it to. But it does miss out on a lot of features that, honestly, for me, I don't really personally care about. One of the big things is the calculator, though. I actually do use that a lot, and this Apple Watch doesn't have it. Of course, there are third-party alternatives, though, that you can use. So you can see just a little sneak peek just to include in this video, because might as well include some life things. I've got the Mac Mini server still sitting here, and it's been doing pretty well. And I will be upgrading the storage on this later, which you will be seeing a video about. But I do actually have something that I want to show here. You can see here's a motherboard. Now this is actually an old motherboard from one of, this is an old motherboard from one of my old computers. You can see it says Dell right there. This was from an Inspiron 620. This was actually my first Hackintosh. Oh, hit the stupid door with the, oh well. I might get like a mini case for this thing, and this might be replacing the server, and I might throw macOS or Linux on here. I'm not 100% sure. macOS does work on this board, but I'll need to figure out CACs and stuff to get this thing up and running, because, well, there is a problem, and that is this computer is so, like, it's so antiquated and weird that it does not support AHCI, which macOS kind of requires in order to see the SATA controller. So if I can't get that working, either by figuring out a way to forcibly enable it, if it does support it, or, you know, finding an IDE driver for that so this controller can work on macOS, then I'll do a macOS server with it. But the problem is I can't find any drivers for it. So chances are that might be Linux, or I might just get a completely different system altogether. But you might see a video on this coming soon. I talked about speed being an issue with this iPhone, and yeah, it is a pretty big issue. It's not terrible like I thought it was going to be, but it's not great. And I honestly am kind of curious how my mom lived with this phone when iOS 12 was, she actually used this phone without support when iOS 13 kind of just came out, although she got a new phone not that long after. Yeah, this phone's not great with speed. Like, if I close every app that I've got running here, which most of these apps doesn't stay open anyways. For example, let's just open the SoundCloud app. Not only, I'll bring up something real quick here. Not only does the SoundCloud app particularly not work all that well on this phone, it's very laggy, it also crashes a lot. And sometimes when you're out of the app playing music, it'll just crash and you'll just see this, where the thing defaults to no music. And I'm like, it's so annoying, because not only that, but most of the time when you're actually using the phone, getting back to SoundCloud is a pain in the butt because of how slow it is. I mean, if you buy one of these phones and you use it lightly, like I would say that what I'm doing on here is not very lightweight. Like, you can see even Mac Tracker struggles a bit to load that. My phone would load that instantly. But like, otherwise once you're in the apps and stuff, it's fine. These devices I would say are otherwise fine. I mean, you can see even the activity app, like you can see how long it's just taking to load the activity for the day. Come on. There we go. Like, goodness gracious, that took way longer than it needed to. That's the thing that gets me, is how long stuff takes, and it's just, I don't know, it's just, it gets annoying. I wouldn't really suggest buying one of these unless you really need one cheaply. I mean, it's fine. This phone's fine. That's all it is, though. Hey guys, it's day 5. So far, there really hasn't been much that's changed with this phone. There have been a couple things though. First of all, I've got a glass protector on the screen now just because, I'd rather not have it scratch when I'm using this thing for another 26 days. You know, might as well just keep my devices protected. Another thing too, I'm starting to get used to the slowdown, and Discord just released an update too, which addressed a lot of slowdown issues with the iPhone 5, 5C, 5S, and 6. I think that's really cool, honestly, though, that they're actually, updating and optimizing these devices that are no longer in support that probably less than 5% of people use. So, good on you, Discord. So just a few things that have been bothering me about this phone. One of them being there's no swipe to type. I actually use that feature a ton on newer phones. That was released with iOS 13, and this phone doesn't have it. It's running 12.5.2. Or actually, I think it might be running 12.5.3 at this point. I can't remember. Yeah, it doesn't exist on these phones, which I'm not terribly surprised by because obviously Apple was not really doing swipe to type. And of course, I could just download a keyboard. If I really care about swipe to type, I could download a different one, but I don't like using third-party keyboards. So one thing that actually really did make me sad yesterday when I found this out, it was last night. I didn't record any video of it because I just didn't really care enough to. If you go and try to go to the SoundCloud app, if I can find it, I do have it installed and it does work perfectly fine on this phone. But you can see here, requires iOS 13 or later. Yeah, they just cut it not that long ago. I do remember when I first actually started using this phone, it was running on 12, and the latest version ran on 12, but it no longer runs on 12, and this update button doesn't actually update because it's not compatible. So, kinda sucks. I guess I won't be using the latest version of SoundCloud. I think it actually says somewhere in the update history. Oh no, it doesn't. That is just an unfortunate little thing. The iPhone 6 doesn't get SoundCloud anymore, at least not the latest version. Like I said though, when I used the iPhone 4 for a week, the SoundCloud app from iOS 7 still works fine. So I would expect that this version would last another good 5 or 6 years. So, unless they just decide to cut all of them instantly, which I don't think they're gonna do. In fact, they didn't even cut it for the iPhone 4 yet. That still works perfectly fine. So, there's that. Finally, just a couple things to note with my Apple Watch, and that is, yeah, it's honestly pretty usable. I didn't think that it was going to be too terrible, and obviously app support is still a pretty mixed bag, but honestly, it's not terrible. Like, if I go to the battery here, you can see it, yeah, you can see it just dropped one. The battery on this, I've noticed, has been getting better because I think it's getting more calibrated. I barely use this watch, and now I'm suddenly starting to use it more. The battery is getting more calibrated. It's lasting a bit longer than it usually would, which is, in my opinion, a good thing. It still will die midday, but it lasts a lot longer now. All right, so it is later in the day, and I got my old iPod Touch out here, the 5th gen. I made a video on using this for a week, and I'll put that link up right here. But I was just curious to see what's the battery health on this guy. Because I remember not only was the battery health on this thing like amazing when I did the using the iPod Touch for a week challenge, someone also gave a comment on it saying, like, the battery health on this thing, it's too good. And yeah, I agree with that. So, at the macOS desktop here, I'm just gonna open up Coconut Battery and see. I already did check this earlier, but I just wanted to show this on camera because it is extreme how good this is. Literally how? How is this possible? Like, what? How? What? I've literally never seen this before. The full charge capacity is above the design capacity. And if you're curious what this actually adds up to, 100% is not correct because, well, this over this is not 100. This is actually 104%. It just doesn't go higher than 100 on Coconut Battery. 104, almost 105% battery health. So yeah, this iPod Touch doesn't even need a battery replacement. It's not even close. And this thing is 8 freaking years old. Getting close to 9 at this point, if it's not already 9 years old. That's just, I don't understand how that works. That's just amazing. Alright, so I'm actually recording on the iPhone 6 here real quick. I don't know what that was. So far, it's been alright. And I think the camera on this is much better than the iPhone 4, if you remember that video. So, yeah, so far, not too bad. The only really complaints are with the Apple Watch's battery not lasting very long, but that's not really to do with the iPhone 6. So, yeah, not much has changed so far. Hey guys, Matt from the future here, and I'm just editing this video now. As you can probably see, this video has gotten really long, so I decided to make a poll just saying, would you like me to split it into 2 parts or make one really long video? And the poll so far has said that you guys want me to split it into 2 parts. That's at least last what I saw. So that's what I'm gonna do. Next week, I will release the second part of this video just because I don't want it to be like too long. And also, you'll see that there is a huge change in the time because I took a very big gap of not recording any videos just to kind of use the device and use it more naturally, especially because, like I said, the video would have been really, really long. And this video is already long enough to the point where I need to split it into 2. So yeah, that's pretty much what's gonna happen here. So that means this video ends right here. Thank you guys so much for watching the first part of this video. If you liked it, then give it a like. Didn't like it so much, there's obviously the dislike button there for you. And get subscribed if you like the content that you see on this channel. Anyways, guys, that's it from me. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys all later. Bye.